Let me see. So the other one being continued is, okay, so that's to October.
The writings.
Yeah, okay. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent, application for Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw permit, and application for Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw permit for the construction of a 39-lot subdivision at 88 Adams Road called The Writings. The applicant has requested a continuance to, and I'll say this correctly this time, October 15th. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to continue with the discussion to October 15th.
I second that.
All those in favor? Fabulous, okay. Okay, so the first, we have to wait till 7:15. When we ever have a public hearing that is a time certain, we can't start ahead of time. So, we have 7 minutes to discuss anything else that is of pressing needs.
I visited Elm Rock, the one that wanted to change their phasing plan.
Oh, okay, yep,
And they do have, they had seeded what they said they would seed, and I went by again yesterday, and it's growing. So
oh, okay. Well,
I
that's
gave
good.
them the go-ahead on that.
Okay, great. So that was, yeah, so that they got it in time to, and the weather's been good for that,
Yep.
okay?
And I don't know if you guys go by that way at all, but the DPW is going up really quick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't head,
It's different every day.
That's pretty exciting.
yeah.
It's been neat to watch.
Have they talked about what they're gonna do at the old DPW?
Not yet. They're hoping to do a whole, I don't know, like feasibility study or something to try to
Yeah.
market the piece.
Yeah, because it's just got some cleanup that needs and so forth, okay. Okay. This is the fun part. We haven't had a lull like this in quite a while.
A lot going on.
Yep. I'm not gonna complain though.
Right.
You guys heard anything else on that land donation thing, or is it just?
So I reached
That's a
out
good
to
question.
town council to say, what do we do to continue? I have not heard back from her yet. I have followed up with the family though to, let them know we haven't forgotten. And I did ask them if we could do a walk of it.
Oh,
and
okay.
Coordination with
That's good.
recreation too.
Yep,
And I guess some of the families out of state, so they were coming in last weekend and he was gonna try to put something together for a date to get out there.
okay, no, that's cool.
That's so nice.
Does the selectman know, aware of this?
Yes, they are
Okay.
now.
Okay, okay, good. Keep them informed, and, because they're the ones that ultimately
Well, they signed off.
need to decide on it, so.
I go down there, and they signed
Okay.
it off, and they put it in the permit app, so yeah. So, that's all, yeah.
Are you going to the fall conference, or?
I don't think so. I think the date didn't work for some reason.
Yeah,
When is that?
it's the 28th, I think?
Of October?
Yeah. This is 28th.
Are you doing a class?
I'm just moderating one, and we had a couple folks just from our company just do stormwater and erosion control units up in Newburyport, someplace north of the city. I don't know, I didn't go. The best part was is that MACC just coordinated it with the engineers I had do it a couple of years ago, so they were like, they just like copied me on the first email. I never saw anything else, and they coordinated the whole thing. And so we had four people from our company go out and do it and stuff. So it worked out pretty good. So,
That's at Devon's?
yes, yeah.
Oh, they sell it with your rates.
Yeah, it is.
I've been told, and they're trying to market it, there's a lot across the street. They're trying to market it with that beach.
Oh, so the DPW has the gravel wetland
Yep,
that I had asked you how we pursue the soil tests.
yep.
So when they get that data in, where could I find the standards that we're comparing it to?
Okay, so basically, it's pretty straightforward. So that would be in the DEP stormwater manual.
Okay.
So, if you look under infiltration, they'll give you like 3 or 4 different methods that's approved.
Okay.
And so, and also under, for the gravel, well, they have bioretention.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're talking gravel wetlands, you don't have to worry about the infiltration.
Right.
But if you have a bioretention, it needs, I think it's between 4 and 10 minutes.
Okay. So I think I'm a little confused. This was the one where they have to test the soil
Yeah, that's
layer
yeah,
before they put it down.
yeah, that's a bioretention where when they place it, they just have to do the test.
So that's different than a gravel
A
one.
gravel wetland's a different system. It has a different way of getting the water into the gravel system. So it's basically, to be very basic. But to be very basic, you're talking a bioretention basin, right? You still have several layers. This would be a stone layer underneath here. Then you have the planting soil. So this planting soil needs to be 4 to 10 minutes per hour. That's because the rain will come down and go through and then hopefully go in.
Okay.
And if you're talking gravel wetlands, so gravel wetlands, you have two bays, and you have basically a mucky layer on top, and then you actually have basically pipes that come down here and go across, and whoops, that's actually wrong. So there's pipes that come down like this. So the water builds up here and goes through this. This could either be crushed stone or it could be pipes. So it's a series of pipes. And then this is like a mucky layer that you can have wetlands plants. And underneath here is a gravel. And so the whole idea is the water comes in here, flows through here. There's another collection system, goes into the second bay, and it goes through this, and then it goes out. It goes out this way. So this is a horizontal. This is a horizontal filter where the water goes through the gravel and the crushed stone. This one here, the water goes horizontally. This goes vertically, this goes horizontally. This goes vertically through the planting soil, which is sand base, where you get your treatment. Then you have your under drainage system and stuff underneath that, with the whole idea to infiltrate into the ground. So there's 2 different functions between a bioretention and a gravel wetland.
Okay.
Gravel wetland is truly a horizontal filter, where the flow goes through the gravel and out.
Okay.
And then these are just overflows
I'll
here.
have to show you. I have pictures from the site. I'll
Yeah.
pull them at the end. We can.
Yeah, and we can just open up one of the files
Yeah.
and be able to.
Okay.
So that's pretty easy. Ah, cool. Okay. Alrighty, done chit chatting. Let's get down to business here. Seeing that it's 7:15, pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a request for determination of applicability for structural reinforcement work at 296 Providence Road in Grafton. So whoever's that, come on up to the table and just give your name and address and a brief.
My name is Tom Duville. This is my structural engineer. And my address of here or my home address?
Wherever you're doing the work. So,
That's 296
Yep.
Providence Road in South Grafton.
okay. And so just give a real brief overview of what the project is and kind of why you're in front of us.
The back of the building has some structural problems,
Yep,
and we want to have it fixed because we want to sell the building.
okay,
And, you know, I'm committed to doing it, committed to getting it fixed, committed to selling it. So we hired a structural engineer, we
Yep.
had the soil tested. And his knowledge of all the soil testing and how the helical process works is
Yep.
way above mine.
that's
So-
okay. And so the work that you're doing is within the buffer zone?
I'm not a civil engineer, but what you're saying is how
You
far
are,
from the
you
wetland.
are a civil
I am-
engineer.
I am, but I
You're
don't
just of the
practice.
discipline of structural, let's get, you know,
You've got it right. I studied civil engineering, but I don't practice civil engineering, I practice structural engineering.
yes, yep.
And so I assume you're showing me the buffer?
This is, one of the drawings that was
Right, and
submitted in the packet.
So there's no work planned within,
I believe you are, I forget how close, let me do a quick measurement.
now,
Yeah.
with respect to work, there's no excavations, I don't know if you're
Yeah,
familiar.
yes, yeah,
About 50 feet.
yeah.
And the buffer's 100 or 200?
it's 100 foot.
Yeah. So, we're not doing any excavations. It's primarily a stabilization, which is a screw that goes into
Yep.
the ground. So there's no displaced soils, no
Yep.
erosion opportunities. What we're doing is making the building secure so it doesn't sink any further.
Okay. Do you have just an aerial map? I'm just looking
Yeah.
to see. Okay.
Are you trying to familiarize yourself
Hmm.
with it? It's the old charter building,
Oh, okay.
right?
All right.
Yeah, it's
Where the charter office was?
Yeah, the charter was up front,
Finn's Pharmacy?
excuse me?
Finn's
Oh,
Pharmacy?
yeah, I bought it from Mr. Finn.
Okay, now I know where you are.
All right.
yeah.
So, so from our perspective, because you're in jurisdiction, that's why you're coming in front of us.
Okay.
I mean, really what we're interested in is just some of the things that you talked about to make sure that we're protecting the resource area so you don't have, you know, soil going out. I understand with the soil screws, you know, whatever you want to call your piles that you're using.
Right.
There is no excavation involved with that. It's truly a machine coming in and doing a big screw into the ground.
Correct.
Okay. So beyond that, does anyone else have any questions? This is pretty benign as far as impacts to what we're doing. I mean, it's, unless you were cutting trees down to access it or anything else.
There's enough room there.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
it just the little, machine that do it now?
Yeah, I didn't quote it, so I wouldn't know what equipment they're planning, but there's certainly enough room to get in there and get
Yeah,
what they need done without taking any trees down.
right.
Oh,
And it looks like there's already existing pavement in the back, so
So you're
there's,
just, yeah,
there's some distance there.
okay.
Um, The hill is right there nevertheless, between 10 and 25 feet from the building, so.
Yep.
Called the top of slope
Yep.
is relatively close.
Right. And you're just, are you putting it underneath the I'm just curious, this
It's
is,
an L bracket's an angle,
okay,
and it snaps underneath the building,
yep,
and then there's a screw that goes in, and when they get enough torque, they know it has enough axial capacity.
yep,
And then they'll lock it tight to the angle,
okay,
and now nothing can sink any
Right.
further because the screw is on terra firma
yep.
and won't allow the building
It's
to
kind of a
drop.
little cantilever thing keeping the building up.
Yes.
It's not, it's right next to it, but it's
I
right
wouldn't
there.
use the word cantilever, it's bracing the edge of the
Yep.
building from sinking any
Okay.
further.
And they're gonna be putting in 8 of those.
Yep. So, is there any other questions from the commission? Just because this is a public process, is there anyone in the audience that have any questions or comments about this? This is fairly straightforward. I mean, from our perspective, appreciate coming in because you're in the within the resource buffer zone, so it's jurisdictional. What we would typically do at this point is we'll take a vote on it. For an RDA, I just wanted to let you know, because there's two things. There's a negative finding, and then there's a finding that you have to go through a notice of intent. You actually want a negative finding, because that means you're done with the permitting process in front of us. We would then issue that determination, and with it, I don't even know if we have any conditions for a project like this. I mean,
Not
this
that
is
you
about the
don't-
lightest touch we've ever seen.
Agreed.
Right.
So, typically, we might do, like, you gotta do erosion control. In this case here, you're not gonna have any spoils. All right, but I just wanna let you know that when we vote on this and we say it's a negative determination, that's actually what you want, okay? So,
Is this something you vote on now?
yep, we'll vote on it right now, and then you'll just get back in touch with Leah, next week, and she'll give you all the paperwork.
Okay.
Because we'll actually sign this stuff tonight. This is fairly straightforward for this type of application, so. If you were doing something different, it'd be a different conversation, but this is fairly benign, so. All right, do I have a motion?
I will move to issue negative determination for 296 Providence Road.
I will second it.
All those in favor? So you are done. Yep. So just reach out to Leah, what,
Give you a call.
Okay.
yep,
All right.
And then you-
Email
Sure.
my wife, you can do that too.
Okay,
yep,
It's the quickest.
okay.
Thank you very much.
yep, you're welcome. Good luck with that.
Oh.
Okay. Gotta wait. 5 minutes.
Thanks again.
Each one takes 15 minutes.
Well, for whenever we have a new public hearing, we do a time certain. If it's a continuance, we just say it starts, we can do them at any time, because continuances kind of float around. But if you're just submitting for the first time, we give a date and time certain so that you know when to be here. I mean, there are times when we can go over and then you start a little late, but we can't start early. So,
The Helix process that they just talked about is a time improvement project. You used to have big cement blocks or engine motors that you would throw in the bay, and they would be your mooring for your sailboat or for your other boat. And then they came out with this Helix thing where a guy drills down through the soft mud till it gets hard soil,
yep,
okay? And then they attach the anchor, they attach the mooring line to that, and they do not come out.
yeah,
My boat went through a number of hurricanes with Helix moorings. Before the Helix moorings, the boat broke loose twice in hurricanes. And not because the mooring let go. It was other boats that would smash into yours if they didn't have a really good
Right.
mooring, and then drag your boat
Yeah.
away because there was much more windage.
yeah.
But what they're doing is pretty straightforward, and it's neat that they're using it to shore a building up.
Yeah, I haven't seen this application. I mean, I'm gonna do it at my own house for an addition, is do the screw piles. And,
Right.
yeah, it's because it's above ground, and I'm used to dealing with very large buildings where they're doing piles, and they do a pile cap, and they have all these drilled piles, and it's a different process. This
Right.
one here for this level is pretty cool. It's,
Yeah,
you think about
doesn't disturb
it.
anything,
That's
it's
Yeah.
just a big straight down.
Yep,
Yeah, that's
and,
okay.
and based on the size
And
of the
based on the
screw
size, you
and the
know,
depth,
Right. And
This is,
it's,
so there's 30, so.
I've been out boating now for almost 15 years, but it was, developed in the 90s.
yeah,
And
it's becoming common.
people changed from the old method, and the harbors liked it because it didn't have rotting engine blocks and other sorts of
Yep.
material in the harbor that would
Yeah.
deteriorate.
Yeah, no,
So it worked out real well.
for me, is, I look at the old fashioned sonotubes when you're doing a deck and stuff.
Right.
If you don't connect it right, and this one here is just, they come in with a little track machine. It's built for doing this, and the cost of it's less, and there's
Yeah.
actually no soil.
And the sonotube can sink.
It can sink, it can shift.
Yeah, it can shift, there's lots of things that happen.
And you see all the
to that
tricks
thing.
of doing like the bell
Yeah.
at the bottom to try to
Yeah.
get it to kind of come out a little bit. This is they're usually deeper, so they're well below frost. It's so much easier for them to put it in,
Yeah.
and from engineering
Are you
standpoint.
having it done too?
I'm gonna have one, yeah, I'm doing an addition on my own house, and I've, investigated, I'm an engineer, so
Okay.
I'm familiar with them.
Helix, right.
Yeah, and so that I was just gonna go with that, cause it just seems, it's less expensive, cause it's not,
I think it's bulletproof.
it's,
You know,
yeah,
By the time you do the sonotubes and you dig down and you do the concrete, and you do all that other stuff you need to do, this is much more bulletproof.
yeah, you screw it down and
Screw it down and you're done.
you got the top and yeah, it's all
Yeah.
pretty, it's definitely, it's the way I'm going, and overall, the cost is less, because they'll come out and they can do 8 or 10 of them in
Yeah.
a morning.
Yeah, it's barely more than what I quoted out for me to just dig out, and put in the sonotubes and concrete myself. Not to mention the days and days.
But yourself, yeah, but but if I'm having a contractor do it,
Right.
yeah, yeah,
It's not even much more than
yeah.
doing it myself.
I'm watching TV, I'm gone.
Where's my 7:42?
Mine says 7:28. I'm looking at the clock too. We all can synchronize our different, okay, it's close enough. There we go. All right. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon the request for determination of applicability for an expansion of a deck at 4 Bridle Ridge Drive. Is that your project? Come on up.
So I'm Randy Allman, the homeowner at 4 Bridle Ridge.
Okay,
And this is Rob Wilkinson, the contractor.
Astonishing decks, yeah.
okay. You don't install Trex, do you?
Sure.
Yeah.
Just a question. It's a slow night here, so.
Oh, yeah, that's it, that's all I do, is Trex decks, yeah.
So the request is, so I'm gonna, I have a pressure treated deck, so I wanna put Trex on it, of course. And along the way, I want to extend it in this picture to the right by 4 feet.
Okay,
This picture's a little bit, it's a proposed house, this isn't actually my house, but if you, in my paperwork, and I can show you the back of my house if you wanna see it on my iPad.
The end of it,
But basically, the deck right now, from the right edge to the tree line, since I don't know where the wetlands is, from the deck right edge to the tree line's 50 feet, we're talking about making that 46 feet.
okay.
And in the wetlands, it's probably at least 20 more feet beyond that, but it all depends on, I don't know where it's at.
Okay,
that, you know what that does, it makes it, and he can show you in the picture, it makes it look like the deck is going all the way to the end of the house, and it's not, it's actually gonna be, we're saying 4 feet is gonna be, so the house is gonna be 26 feet beyond the edge of the deck, already closest to the wetland, so.
can you show these guys over here?
Yeah, you can have this picture that helps you if you guys want them.
So
Yeah.
just one correction there,
Yeah.
so the current deck is 30 feet to the edge of the house.
Let me let you
Probably
have
take
these
this
too, to
26
help you.
feet.
His angle's really good, but he didn't print them out, but we're going to here.
Here to
And then
the
you,
edge is
and he
30.
said that
Yeah.
portion
Tree
there
line's another
is 26 feet, but you'll
Okay.
see it, yeah. When I took those, I wasn't realizing I was gonna be doing this kind of thing, so I didn't
That's
take
okay.
it. He did when he took his.
So the tree line will make that 46, and the wetlands is somewhere beyond that.
Okay,
Thank you.
so, okay. Do you have an aerial? for
You wanna
this
show
one?
them?
Yep.
Yeah, she saw it.
She saw it, okay.
Yep.
No.
So again, this is fairly straightforward as far
Yeah,
as,
the footings that we're gonna dig for that expansion, we're gonna do with post hole diggers. The dirt, we just spread it on the dirt, it's not even gonna be a half a yard of dirt, I mean, I had this in Milford where nobody showed up to me and the owner did it. We had 4 footings and they had this 75-foot retention thing. And I told the DPW, I had to dig up more dirt to get that plastic in there than I did my footing. He goes, I get it.
so on something like this, as far as, I mean, we'll go through this, and like the conditions are you can't put the dirt in the wetlands.
No, it's,
You know, I mean, it's fairly straightforward. As far as erosion control, that's really based on how far and how steep the lawn is and so forth. It's pretty flat out there.
oh, yeah.
There's it's pretty, I mean, there is a little bit of a dip over the 50-foot.
Yeah.
Just for a point of reference, this,
Yeah, you could
this
look at that.
line here is the 20-foot no disturb that was set up, under the order for the house. It was a 20, not a 25.
Okay, all right. But the only problem is this plan here is incorrect.
This
Right.
is proposed.
This is
Yeah.
the proposed.
Right, so in actuality, it's because it's a different layout. And if this is the corner and that's the woods, they've got an extra 30 feet.
Yeah, the house goes 26 feet further beyond the deck, yeah, edge, yeah, it's there.
So,
Yeah, so you kind of think of that deck being more to the left, but when you go up the corner of the house, where it looks like the deck extends to the corner,
yep,
from there, when I measure it from there to the wood line is 20 feet, which is kind of where you see that buffer zone
So that, yeah.
extension.
so the aerial again? Yeah, so that house is different than what was on the proposed plans.
Yes,
And
it
that's
is.
what makes it a little
The
bit,
biggest difference is the deck, primarily, the deck isn't where it looks like it is in that house.
None of these are really showing it very well.
I wish I had that printed out, I wish I had a better.
so it's on the back of the house,
It's on the back.
and where it's closest to the trees. Let's see,
Yeah,
there it is right
again.
there. Whoops, you can get around there. That's probably the best right there.
Yeah.
But see how the deck is more toward us?
Yep,
That proposed picture had it kind of on the far edge of the house, which
Right.
is not.
and you're extending it towards,
I'm extending it toward.
right, so you're not,
toward,
so, yeah, so it's just, when you start talking about the distance to the woods and the wetlands.
It's toward that, yes.
Right, it's really, you're going towards the furthest one because of the way it's set up. So it's just different on your proposed plan, that's, yeah, so. You don't wanna go with the helix,
Oh, one, I can't because we got, they attached the deck to a cantilever of the house,
Oh,
which is
okay.
illegal, and I gotta go in between the
Yep.
deck and dig footings and then
Gotcha.
put a beam in, yeah.
Okay.
And so we're under we're actually gonna be, the orange is the existing deck, and we're gonna actually go right there with post holders in between the joist and dig it down, and then
Okay.
put a beam in there to support it, so. We're bringing it up to code,
Okay.
plus the expansion, yeah.
okay.
So, yeah, you can't get that machine in there.
Is there any other questions on this, or have you been out to the site, Leah?
I have not.
Okay. Any other questions on this? I mean, it's just,
It's pretty,
yeah, and you're just replacing the existing decking and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that was the first motivation, but now I want to extend it to 4
The
feet.
4 feet, yeah.
The way you're extending it, you're not really getting closer, in a sense, towards the wetlands. You are on one side, but you still have
On
the whole
one side,
house, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the house is much, much closer.
Yep. Okay. At this point, is anyone in the public that has any comments or questions on this particular project? Okay. Do you have any recommendations as far as,
It's got erosion control.
okay. So I would say, can you show me your plan again, of what you're actually doing for,
So here's his existing deck right here.
yeah,
This is existing deck in orange.
yeah,
So, and this is a cantilever, which is illegal. So we're gonna take post hole diggers between the joists and dig
Yeah.
his footing down. Then we got 2 to put here so he can do his 4-foot expansion. And we just figured the dirt, we could, he's got low spots in here, we'll just put it in there. Under the existing deck, it's very flat, so. It's not even a
Yeah, under
cubic.
the deck is flat.
Yeah, it's not
Okay.
even a half a cubic yard of dirt, if you do the pi r squared.
I'm just asking that just as far as, I mean,
Yeah.
what we typically require for erosion control is just a straw wattle which is a tube with a straw in it.
Yeah.
That you put, yeah, so that's, but I'm just wondering in this case here if it's actually even needed, because it's so flat and you have such a good grass there.
Yes,
You
yes,
know,
it's full grass.
Yeah, so, what we'll do is, we'll vote on this, and again, the negative is what you're looking for.
Negative is good.
Yeah, but what we can do is that part of that we'll have, like, when you go to start, Leah will go out and just take a quick look at the site to make sure there's nothing else out there. And she can make a determination that says, yeah, you really don't need erosion control because of how flat it is and because of the vegetation. Because the vegetation will actually do most of the work. And because of the really,
Minimal amount.
the minimal
Yeah,
amount, I
got
mean,
it.
that's kind of, so, I mean, if you're a steep slope and you're doing more, because there's 3 that are gonna stay, so you're only adding 5, I think is what I counted, so, okay. Any other questions? All set for a motion?
I'll move to issue a negative determination for Brattle Ridge Drive.
I second that.
And then just for further discussion is just that, one condition will be that the agent will go out and just take a look to determine if erosion control is needed. Is there anything else that we need on the standard?
If you wanted to do the one about excess material.
Yeah, if they're gonna bury it underneath the deck,
Oh, yeah.
then I don't have a problem because yeah,
Okay.
because then they won't have like direct rain falling right on it and running it out and stuff, so. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor? Aye. Good luck with your new deck.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
So
Then-
Leah, is there a time frame that you come out, or normally you would wanna get started like on the 15th or something?
It's gonna be around,
Mid-month.
I'm sure I can get there this week. Let me just
Perfect.
email and
Okay.
coordinate
Yeah,
with
that'd
you.
be perfect.
Okay,
Yeah,
Thank you.
weather's great, I could be in by the end of the following week, so yeah, we're ready to go. Okay,
Okay.
great, thank you, Leah.
Thank you.
enjoy your new deck.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Jack.
Yeah, thank you, I don't know why I brought it, it's been more, I didn't think it was on the first one.
So the only one left is,
Meadowbrook.
okay.
You can keep those if you want, for the file, any value to you?
Yeah, I'll keep it.
Yes, anything that's presented at the meeting, we have
There
to
you
keep
go,
a record
yeah.
of.
Thank you.
All right,
Alright.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you bet, thank you.
All right. So, let's get rid of this one here. All right. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent, application for Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw permit, application for Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw permit for construction of a private road for 3 single-family lot development called Meadowbrook Manor. You're up.
We're early, which is great.
We had gaps, so this is unusual for us to be hanging out twiddling our thumbs, so
Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
absolutely.
All right.
You know the routine.
All right, so just for the record, Andy Bond from Summit Engineering, Bob Flynn, the project proponent for Meadowbrook Manor. So last time we spoke, one, we didn't have a DEP file number, and secondly, we were waiting on some commentary or review from Graves Engineering
Yep.
and Ecotech. And subsequent to that time, Ecotech has been on site, reviewed the line. We had gone out and refreshed all these delineation numbers. The flags were still in place. We'll
Okay.
renumber them. Or, I shouldn't say we freshened up the numbers so they're legible, because the delineation had occurred last fall. And there was no alteration or changes in the delineation flags. There was some discussion about the riverfront here. This river goes under the bridge, and actually takes a 90-degree under the bridge here, and then actually proceeds away from the property. So a revised set of plans will come out and show the 200-foot buffer going in front of the Sweat property here, but it didn't impact the property at all. Secondly, Graves had reviewed the property. And I really wanted to take the opportunity to go over with the board a couple of things, or the commission, because we could be looking at some changes depending on what the interpretations are. So if you look at the letter prepared by Graves on September 17th, item number 1 is the infiltration basin is approximately 40 feet from the garage and the abutting property, so right here.
Yeah.
If you go out there, you see this driveway actually goes up into the garage here, and I haven't been into the dwelling, but the assessor's cards show that the garage is an at-grade garage and the basement is on this side here. This is the infiltration basin. We actually dug a soil test pit here. Believe it or not, we actually had some gravelly material on the front, and the whole site pitches down this way. So it made sense to put the basin here, even though we can't meet strict compliance to the 100-foot offset to the property. I'm sorry, the basement, if that's the interpretation of the commission on the.
Say that one more time.
This is the garage.
Yep.
right here.
Yep,
So this is at grade, and this is basement as far as I
Right.
can tell based on the
Okay.
assessor's records. It's at an angle, cuts across, but this garage is a cast floor. So we're 40 feet to the basin here,
yep,
so we're about 65 feet to the basin from the basement.
okay,
Basement. Okay. There was a soil testing that was done on this end, that we had some gravelly material. So we
Yep.
were able to maintain the 2-foot groundwater offset with a fairly shallow basin. It's only about 3 feet deep.
okay,
Okay? We built a swale, or proposing to construct a swale, to pick any water up coming off this wall,
yep,
and then pitch it into the basin. So again, away from the sweat property.
yep,
Okay? So our concern is to be able to meet the 100-foot offset, which would be about, through here, half the basin in
Okay.
size. The whole site pitches down this way, so we're picking up all this watershed from here, all the way into the basin.
yep,
So it was the most pragmatic place to put it,
okay,
but it does raise a question, because that could end up being a redesign,
okay.
depending on the commission.
Okay. And then, as far as elevations go, what's the elevation of the abutting house?
I don't have a grade shot on there. I went on Google Earth, it's fairly flat across here, so we're actually about 3 feet lower to 4 feet.
They're actually higher.
Okay,
That elevation's actually higher.
so,
Leah walked the property, and I think you agree that you could see it's obviously higher.
I don't specifically recall
we can look at
the
the,
height of the house.
Okay.
we can look at the,
I know it's higher for 2 reasons. When Sweat's house was built, there were 2 other foundations that had to be abandoned because of groundwater. Okay, so their house is the 3rd foundation on that lot.
yeah.
That lot
It's-
was very wet.
These are
And when they-
2-footers?
and when-
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's about 2 foot high.
Yeah, and when it's 2 foot higher, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So when they moved in, what happened was, my lower field where we're putting that basin, the horses would graze down there. The water would flow from their lot, because it was higher, right across that lower field, and actually end up going down my driveway, okay, and making it icy. So I talked to the Sweats, this was probably, I don't know, 12, 15 years ago, you know, when the house was built, and they regraded to keep their water off of my property. So their ground is much higher than my ground right there. In fact, when you look at the property now, it's almost a swale. Okay, if you go out and look at it, you'll see that where the basin's going to be is actually much lower than their property. So I guess we're asking for a waiver.
It's a waiver from the horizontal distance, or it would be.
Okay.
Actually, I have a couple of photos if it's helpful from the day I went out. So that's the neighbor's house right there.
That's the
Yeah.
garage.
And you can see right where she had that last picture, how low it is in there. That's where the basin would be.
Yeah, it's not that much lower, but it's not higher, I guess
Right.
is what,
No,
I'm not looking for exact, I
Right,
would just,
okay.
yeah, it's, It's more just, you know, if the basin was 4 feet higher, obviously.
Right, we were trying to not be upgrading by
Yeah.
moving it, those end up being our alternatives.
Yeah, okay,
Of doing that.
all right. And then as far as other, let's keep on going and hit the
Yep.
other comments that you want to hit on.
Sure, so the other crux is the 80% TSS removal before stormwater enters the infiltration basin.
Okay,
So when we went through the planning board process, you know, my understanding of the stormwater management form is you take advantage of each BMP, structural or maintenance BMP, before you get in to the ultimate discharge.
yeah,
Okay, we had a TSS worksheet that included a grass line swale, which we changed to a water quality swale by putting in check dams.
yeah,
But Graves made us take those credits off the worksheet so we could have an 80% in the basin, which I disagree with, but it was what we were required to do.
Say that again, okay,
I'm explaining it because I know you understand it. So when you go through the checklist, and for
Yeah.
the benefit of the other commission members, they have a checklist and there's a little formula that goes through and they allow you credits of TSS removal for each item you do. So if you do street sweeping, typical road that you'll see, maybe you'll get street sweeping or not, depends on the commission. You go to a deep sump catch basin, you get 25% reduction. Then you go into a 4-bay, and then you'll get a 50% reduction. Then you go into an infiltration basin, another 80% reduction.
right.
Graves, when they reviewed the project, said you can't take advantage of those other ones, and they just gave me,
So I
80%.
think I know what he's doing. What he's saying is if, when you have the water quality swale, right?
Yeah.
That's your pre-treatment.
correct, but he made me take it off the credit sheet.
You take it off the credit sheet, but you're still getting 80% for your infiltration basin.
Yes,
So the swale allows you to meet that pre-treatment,
yes.
but you don't take credit because it's pre-treatment.
Yeah, I disagree with that when you go through the thing, but either way, but the problem is I satisfied that for the planning board, and now we submit it for the commission, and the comment comes back again that I'm not meeting it. You follow?
Okay, so that's a conversation we need to have with Graves, because to me, if you have the pre-treatment,
Exactly. In the end, we did what we were supposed to do,
yeah,
but I'm getting engineering comments again
yeah,
for something that we did, you know, and putting us in a, you know, I can't solve that problem
okay.
here, and I've
So,
had a conversation with Jeff about it, and he says that's the way his office interprets it. I asked if there was any specific guidance from Mass DEP on that, he
so
said no.
there's also, did you also see the comments from DEP?
Yes, and
Okay.
that's, so when I give that submission sheet to them, they're not seeing that I have that on there. So they're commenting that I'm not meeting it even though I am.
Okay.
You follow what I mean? So by incorrectly using the worksheet, I can't satisfy everybody.
So as far as what's you have on the plan right now is that you have a swale going down,
Yeah, I have open channel flow, so the road is pitched inward,
yep,
okay, or I should say northerly. Crosses a water quality swale, check dams
yep,
along, and then it goes into the infiltration basin here,
right,
okay?
okay,
So we are pre-treating, but I'm not taking credit for it, because they said I can't. But then
gotcha,
I get a comment from DEP, and then a subsequent review from them that says I don't meet it.
okay,
So I have a paper quagmire that I can't solve without, and I don't
Okay.
wanna add additional infrastructure when I already meet it.
right. I mean, I think there's two things going on here. There is the question of having pre-treatment for an infiltration basin to get 80% TSS removal.
Yep.
So that's that.
Which we did.
Right. And like if, it'd be the same thing like with DEP, if, let's take away the, the water quality swale, say you had a 4-bay in there, just had a swale into a 4-bay, you're still not supposed to take the 4-bay, credit for the 25% removal because it's part of the infiltration system. However, they would see the 4-bay.
Yeah.
So there's, and then you say that you have a 4-bay. So you don't do 25% and 80%, because that's come back on me before.
Yeah,
Because it's,
I'm really struggling, I'd like to see if you had any information on that, I'm really struggling on
yeah.
that one.
I mean, I, that's just based on what I've seen from a lot of different places, and I'm not talking about here specifically. So it's to me, so you have the question of, our peer reviewer, and I think I understand what he's doing, and then you flip and you send it to DEP.
I can't prepare two different separate sets of,
That I understand, it is really just that one hangup of that. So, to me, that doesn't require a plan change, that requires some narrative or something, and
well, I mean, even just a reviewer, I'm hoping would see it.
right, yeah. And then the other part of that is as far as DEP comments go, on something like this, as far as the pre-treatment, I mean, if we put in our findings that there's pre-treatment because there's a water quality swale, that's all we can do.
Yeah.
But I actually want to, I think I know what Jeff is saying, but I want to actually,
So, and one of the things I explained to Jeff, I said, okay, that's great, we have an 80% chance. I said, well, what happens when someone decides to make it 95%? I could never meet it.
well, that's why it's not going to ever be 95.
We live in a regulatory world, everyone comes back and says more is better.
That's not true, though.
You know, I'm playing the devil's advocate.
Yeah, I know, but I guess because I've been involved on the different task force that looks at that stuff, that's not where the discussion goes. More isn't always better.
I hope you're correct.
Yeah, but anyways,
So that's a stumbling block for me because.
okay,
if-
that's something, from a commission level, we need to understand from our perspective, make sure we fully understand from our peer reviewer what he's intending. And as far as DEP goes, that's part of that is doing the findings. That's kind of one part. That's, that I think we can sort out as
Okay.
far as that goes. But keep on going on,
Number 3, grading proposed within the 25-foot buffer zone. That occurs right here.
yep,
This is for all intents and purposes, this is a roadside swale that the town recently mowed. So I don't know, I mean, if it's intended just to be a comment, because it's related to the,
Is that on the opposite side of the road?
yeah, it's
On the
between your
mailbox side of the road?
It's between, no.
Oh, it's on my side.
On your side, between
Okay.
your driveway and the.
so what is, that's just the swale that you're making a connection with?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, we're not touching it, but, we're within 25 feet of it. So you can see this brown is the new alignment, the new pavement. and
Yeah.
This gray is the existing pavement.
Okay,
So, I mean, we can't go farther,
yeah,
south, so this is the only location that can bring that without.
The
re-altering.
depression of that swale starts further towards the sweat house than my house,
Yeah, the delineation
because
is,
there was a tree there.
is right
Yeah.
about here.
okay.
Okay.
So that's, I mean, that's a kind of dependent upon the flow and the drainage. Is that something we need a waiver on? Is that?
I had put that in my comments
Okay.
too.
So I think, there are certain things when you do with drainage, and we have offsets and so forth, you need to just request a waiver. I mean, that to me. Because, I mean, you can't put that driveway in without touching that stuff.
Well, it's kind of another big issue with the state's interpreting that swale. It clearly was built for drainage, and
Yeah.
they call it wetlands, so what happens now, everyone's filling wetlands where they would just put a culvert in. If it wasn't built before 95 or 96, whenever the stormwater management policy came into play.
Yeah, I'm not worried about other stuff. I'm just worried about this project,
Yeah.
so. But to me, that's local bylaw stuff, and so that's a waiver from
So we need a
my
waiver.
perspective, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
The other one, the volume of earth to be removed, I mean, I put some generic numbers in with the planning board submission for the subdivision
Yeah,
control bylaw. Is that sufficient for this application?
and that is coming up.
Number 4.
Number
Four.
4.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you've done a calc and you're stamping it,
We did a count, I mean, just bear in mind, again, it did take into account what's going on here,
yep,
but if someone puts a different house, or if it's a 3-bedroom septic versus a 4, it alters those numbers.
I mean, it's, if it substantially alters it, you'd have to update it, so.
Leah had typed up some or put together an overall summary
Yep,
of the site. One of them being administratively a waiver and a fee for 2-foot contours.
yep,
I mean, your stormwater checklist requires 1-foot contours.
Yep.
We gave you more information. I don't think that requires a fee for the town.
that's right now, that's the wetlands bylaw, right? Or the stormwater bylaw.
I forget which is which, but we had decided when someone was filing for both, we were going with the two.
Okay, so,
I can look up which is which.
we'll double check that to make sure we're clear on that.
What is the cost
So-
of the fee?
50.
So-
It's more of a principle thing. Okay. We gave you more information and you're charging us for it.
So you have 1-foot contours?
Yes.
And so which one has the 2-foot contours?
I forget if it's wetlands or stormwater.
Okay, from my perspective, the 1-foot contours is more information, so it
Okay.
meets the 2-foot contours. That's my perspective. That's just because, yeah.
I think your stormwater alone, when we did the Grafton one, we requested the other way because we had 2-foot contours because the site was so vast.
I know that I had something to do with that stormwater, and because so many times when you do any kind of green infrastructure, if you don't have 1-footers, you can't build it off of it. So I feel strongly when you're doing a site, I mean, if you're doing a solar field,
It's a scale thing, yeah.
yeah, and so the 1-footers you need for the detail,
Yeah.
so, yeah, so
Well, I
that's.
understand I just.
But this one here, I
this
would
is
agree,
backwards.
I would agree with you that if it's a 2-foot requirement and you're showing 1 foot, you've exceeded that
Correct,
level, and therefore it's not a waiver.
yeah. Unfortunately, the language doesn't say a minimum standards, it just says shall.
Yeah, well,
It's,
we should have a note that we need to align those two.
Okay.
The hay
straw,
to, yeah.
that's no problem.
Yep.
Level disturbance, that's fine. And we'll submit a revised waiver request.
Okay,
17 Meadowbrook, concerned about additional runoff being generated, that coincides with the interdepartmental review.
yep,
So stormwater calculations have been provided that show a net decrease in the peak flow rate coming off the
yeah,
site.
and that's what Graves said,
And that's
agreed.
great, you know, we used the extreme storm requirements that you had, so that you had a higher.
Those are not extreme anymore.
well,
Those are
they're
real. They're
entitled
actually based on,
The Cornell paper, you know,
yeah, actually, yeah, we will end up changing it to the Atlas 14. They're very close, but they're actually more real than 60-year-old stuff.
Either way, you know, we comply with your current regulation
Yep,
for managing that peak flow rate coming off the hill. There are some comments about this driveway and this, there's a catch basin right here before it goes into the river.
yep,
I pulled the lid off the catch basin, it's structurally sound and clean. And I don't know what this is well off of our property, and we mimic the pre-existing
Yeah.
conditions coming down here.
okay.
And I don't think it's the applicant's responsibility, but
So what did planning board say about, was this comment in front of planning board
it
also?
was on the planning board. It was
Okay.
submitted, I think, as part of their thing, and they didn't really dig into it at all. But it regurgitated itself for this submission. You know, we did include a cross culvert here, so that the high spot in Meadowbrook Road is about in the front of this house.
Yep,
So this water comes down. There is an old structure right about here. I don't know what it is, but you go out there, you'll find a metal lid. If you open up, it's a fieldstone
is
something.
this right across from? Okay, forget that, okay, wait a minute,
140's out here.
okay. I was just trying to, okay,
Down that hill
yep,
and then on the
Yeah,
top.
there's a low spot in the hill. It comes back
Yep.
up in front of this house, and
okay,
it goes back downhill here.
okay,
So either way, there is some pitchable flow here. We tried to capture that so it's not flowing across the mouth of his new driveway or road, private road, and put a cross culvert underneath it to manage that water. so that it's not a nuisance, or it doesn't become a nuisance condition.
So, yeah, we'll, I mean, from my perspective, I'll rely on Graves reviewing this.
Yeah,
and
I think
did-
he even had a comment regarding that, on his general engineering comments, and
Yep,
concurred that, you know, with this design.
yep,
Board of Health, we haven't submitted any septic designs, obviously they'll be compliant. I
yeah,
don't think
that,
that's-
might have ended up with a condition saying you have to do it. I mean, we don't review septic systems, so,
We did provide a alternatives analysis for working within the riverfront here.
okay,
You know, that is, we feel that this project is the highest and best use of work within the riverfront. There is some grading that occurs right here, so that the water coming out of this drainage basin goes into a swale along the edge of the road, and then back in, we put some armor right around here at that high wall,
Yeah.
where they're coming together.
yeah, and you're not altering or degrading more than 5,000 square feet,
Oh, no,
so, yeah,
no,
so,
we're well underneath that
yeah.
threshold.
And even if you took the existing, degraded, and added the new, you'd still be,
Yeah, I mean, that whole area's been cut at one point in time, there is some brush around here, but you can see where when they built or upgraded the road, they cut this in.
it's also in the public way too.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
so,
that was pretty much it. I think the DEP comments was self-explanatory. There was another secondary one about the 80% removal credit that we discussed. And that was it, unless there was any more.
yeah, so they're just asking, you know, as far as the area in the riverfront, how's it gonna be restored?
It's gonna be stabilized, it's either gonna have paving, this little piece here,
Yeah.
extension of the paving, and the rest is gonna be, loamed and seeded.
Okay. Did you spec what kind of seed, are you just doing like an erosion control mix?
Just an erosion control mix.
Okay.
It's a fairly steep slope, so I don't, put all big lawn there.
No, okay, no, that's just fine. Again, it's just making sure that we understand what's going on and stuff, that's all. Yeah, so the other things that DEP is saying is that area can't be used as a settling basin during construction.
Yeah.
Kind of my take on that is that, obviously, you don't wanna finish that infiltration prior to construction.
Stabilizing the site.
Yeah, because otherwise, I mean, if you wanna use a shallower system for sedimentation and then go in and excavate
Yeah,
down,
we expect stuff to be a foot higher than
right,
the finished bottom, so you can dig out all the
yeah,
silt.
I mean, that's kind of, yeah, that makes sense to me. So as far as, because you're in the right of way, now you're doing a driveway curb cut or whatever I don't know what you're doing for that.
It's, right here,
Yeah,
it's an existing driveway,
yep,
okay, and some of the genesis of that with the fire truck
yeah,
is, the fire truck, when he attempts to go up the existing driveway right now,
yep,
the rear end of the truck is hitting the crown of the road, just barely.
okay.
So,
It's because the road is crowned.
Right, yeah, it probably has a higher crown than
Well,
it's typical.
What
I mean, it
they
shouldn't
did, what
hit
they
it,
did
no.
when they repaved the road, they just didn't take the crown out, as you saw, they just paved over. So I had a 40-foot motorhome that was digging a hole in the street 2 inches deep going in and out. And I talked to the town engineer, he came down, he said, yeah, I don't want you doing that. I said, well, then you gotta fix your road. He says, well, I'm not gonna go back 60 feet. He said, that's what would require to fix the road, to go all the way back past Duchesne's house. So he came in and he did an apron on my driveway
Okay, to bring yours up.
to bring it up. But unfortunately now, the fire truck that's so long, this ladder truck, and I'm in the bus business, so you can't build a bus with that type of long overhang. He drags going in.
Yeah,
Okay, so that was a requirement of the fire department to that's why we have to take the soil out of the driveway.
and that's fine, and where I'm going with this isn't so
Okay.
much the design of it, or, is just the fact that it's been part of the process, because DEP brings up
Right.
2 questions about the permission of doing that in the right-of-way.
Yeah,
So the configuration of the driveway is being dictated by the planning board process.
correct.
So that's fine. I just want to make sure that,
Yeah, and even the width, we requested
Yeah.
a more narrow waiver of what they wanted.
okay.
20 feet.
So, yeah, so I'm really, because they're talking about two things, who's gonna be taking care of it, and, you know, the fact that it's in the roadway easement. Okay, and then driveway culvert associated with the riprap settling. Is the new culvert in the public right of way, or is it in?
It's in the public right away.
Okay.
It's right here.
Okay, and so they're just concerned with who's gonna maintain it?
Yeah.
That's all.
And the answer's gonna be, it's like any culvert for your driveway here, it's gonna be the homeowners association. It's gonna have to deal with that maintenance and
Yeah.
upkeep of that.
So some of the other comments that Leah has is just that the layouts of the two future, is that what we'll do is, when we do the findings, that they're conceptual only, because you'll come, yeah. And they're outside of the, it's just that, just remember, if you make the houses or you put in, or dramatically increase the driveways, you're gonna have to come back.
Yeah, we tried to be fairly practical.
Yeah.
What we were showing here.
Right, so it's really just, so your calculations are based on the impervious shown, so if it gets increased, you're gonna have to come back and show those changed
Mhm.
calcs, but if it becomes smaller or less, we don't care.
Do we get credit?
I don't know what credit you get, but you don't have to, you know, you don't really have to come back to us, basically, on that case there, okay. All right, so next steps, so I see a couple of things that we need to coordinate with Graves prior to we telling you what you should do, because we all wanna get on the same page.
Right.
And so, and specifically, you don't have to send back to DEP, you know, responses to all of this.
Okay.
That's my understanding. We need to address these in our findings, in our order.
Okay.
So I'm less worried about the issue of how the pretreatment is looked at, and what DEP is saying is because we can state that the pretreatment's here and it's based, you know, we can
Yep.
have a finding. So I'm a little bit less worried about that. As far as the 72 hours and the 2 feet, I know Graves would have looked at that,
That's
so.
one of the calculations.
Yeah, so that's fine. So, so those, as far as the DEP comments, to me, we can do findings based on our peer reviewer and stuff for that. But as far as, I just want to check with Jeff on what his take on it is, and as far as, if you can slide up to, was it 4 and 5 or whatever? That one, which is the one that talks about the basin and the 100-foot.
Oh, it's
Okay.
number one.
Yep. So I want to talk to him about that
Mhm.
and stuff, so.
Is that something more of an opinion from Graves and the Conservation Commission
So
here?
number 2 is basically our standard that we've been doing, is that if you have an infiltration basin,
Yeah.
okay, you need to do the 80% ahead of it. Otherwise, the infiltration basin will not last very long. So that's always a problem when you have a surface infiltration basin like this. They clog up, and once they fail, they're useless. So
But this basin can be mowed, so it's not something that is deep that would,
it's the sediment. It's the sediment that clogs. You get
Okay.
So you have a water quality swale ahead of it.
Mhm.
And so, so his comment, and this is where we have to have the conversation. So a water quality swale is 70%, I think.
Yep.
And so you would have 70%, and you don't have a forebay because, and it has to do with how you account for the,
The volume.
right. So on the state level, they say it has to have pretreatment. from a local level, we've always said you had to have the 80% because of problems with failures on infiltration basins. That's just, it happens all the time. And so we want you to treat the water before it gets there. And we want the ability for this total suspended solids to be out before they get. So what we're worried about is not,
Okay.
we're worried about the fines. The fines get into that infiltration basin, and you take one storm, it will clog up the infiltration system. So that's just a reality of when you have a surface basin like this. So it's not to say that this isn't a good approach, that you shouldn't be using this. It's just that we're trying to protect. I know that there'll be a homeowners association, okay?
Right.
But when it fails, it goes to the town. And so
Right.
what we're trying to do is make sure there's a longer life to that basin.
Well, living there 30 years and having the horses graze there, and I know Helen knows the property probably more than, almost as much as I do there. There's never been a problem with water, okay, on that property.
Well, the engineer says there's a
Okay.
problem with water coming
Well,
off
I know
of
he
that
does.
site.
Well, he's saying there's a problem with water because of the houses and what we're doing with rainwater coming off
Yeah.
houses and things like that. But the upper field is completely dry. I don't have any, you know.
That's because it's probably heavy vegetation. It's a meadow.
Well, it's a meadow and the horses, you know, chew it down.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm
But-
trying to do is, so, yeah, so we have that 80% is something that we have. I want to talk to Jeff about, so that we're on the same page.
Yep.
It's because you are providing pre-treatment, 70% is an 80%, but that's a different discussion. But if you're doing a full water quality swale with the correct soils, check dams, everything else, that's a good pre-treatment. So that's kind of a conversation, because since I've been on, we definitely, you can't just put a catch basin with a deep sump and call it good, because you'll have the fines get through
Yeah.
and stuff, so. So that to me is a discussion, but you don't have a catch basin or deep sump.
No,
You don't
we're
have a
trying to keep it
forebay.
Open channel,
Yeah,
try to maintain as much of that meadow field.
right, and to be quite honest, the part that will do more than anything else is the vegetation in that swale. I mean, that is your best
Right.
remover of the sediment.
Yeah, I'm happy with what Andy's designed because it can be mowed and it can
Yeah.
be maintained and the property look like it has,
Yeah.
even though we have a house further up in
Yeah.
the horse field. It's gonna look basically the same and operate the same.
Right, and so that grass is what I think is important. And so, but I want to just have a conversation with Jeff. I don't want to tell you, you have to do this and that. I want,
Well, that's why I wanted to talk tonight.
Can you show that picture of the grass again of what that lower field looks like?
yeah.
I mean, that's,
And that's what I'm saying, that's
Yeah.
a good system to reduce any kind of sediment and so forth. Whenever you add impervious, you increase the runoff, you concentrate it, and so what you're trying to do is then mitigate that, and that's what the swale with the check dams are doing. So,
right. And the ground slopes up towards the tree line as it goes towards the road.
yeah,
It slopes very up, and then it drops off dramatically, like 20 feet.
yep. So, yeah, so
So the property's
yeah.
gonna maintain it, keep its own water, you know, in that lower part.
It is, but you are going to disturb those two lots, and you're going to have a good period of time when you have exposure, and that's
Okay.
why we were talking about your greatest risk for really messing up that infiltration system is during construction, and you'll chase your tail trying to get it to work again if you don't protect it.
So would that all have to be built before I would start construction on the house lots?
No, actually, we're saying almost the opposite, is that you don't
Right.
want it all constructed. You want to,
You wanna leave that to last?
yes, you can do a shallow basin for
You
sediment.
wouldn't not do it, you build something to retain the water during construction.
Right, that's all.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't be finished.
You
And
wouldn't
then you would go back at the end,
And
excavate
finish
out
it.
another
I
foot
understand.
or whatever the depth is. That's so that you get back to your kind of virgin soil,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
otherwise it's not gonna work. The other tricks you can do is throw a wick in there. I mean, that's will make things last
How,
longer.
how do I go away tonight feeling good or bad?
Well, I think I think that we went through a lot of these questions. I just want to talk to our peer reviewer so that
Okay.
we can get on the same page. And then we as a commission need to decide as far as the pre-treatment before there.
One of the things that if I have the opportunity to express myself, is that the property's 12 and a half acres. Why did I just go for 2 lots? Because I want to maintain the level of the neighborhood, okay? Financially, this project, okay? I've already spent $20,000 in fees with the town of Grafton. $5,000, or $4,825, is with stormwater management. I'm in the bus business. I follow all the regulations, the DOT regulations. I know why they're there, okay? And I know why your regulations are here too. But if I can't financially look at this project and have it come to a quick or closure, okay, then I have other options.
And
my other options is abandon this, go to 4 or 5 houses, okay? Which hurts the town, I think hurts the neighborhood, and I don't really want to do that.
so here's my perspective.
Okay,
Okay, we're a volunteer board, okay?
Okay.
We're here, we're trying to do the best we can. I understand, and when you make a statement like that, I feel that you're trying to pressure us in one way or the other. No, let me finish,
Okay.
okay? So, you can do whatever you want, it's your property, okay? If you're going this way, I don't think we overall have a problem with it. If you want to add more lots, that is your perspective. We're trying to just look at what we have and trying to follow the rules that we have.
okay. I didn't get a chance to finish,
Okay.
What I wanted to say was I have 8 grandchildren. They all grew up in this town. They asked me, would it be possible to put 2 house lots on this property that we could buy and we could build houses here?
Yep.
Okay? So I'm not looking at it to develop and make money. If I was, I would have gone a different route. Okay?
Right.
But financially, I've got to make it come to some type of workability for all of us. I'm not trying to put pressure on you. I'm just trying to say, this is where we are.
Right.
Okay? And I didn't know when stormwater management was put in the bylaws in this town.
It goes back
How many years?
8 years.
I don't know. I'll
Okay.
It's
Because when I look at this plan of the Sweats house
yeah,
and the 200 arc of the river,
yep.
their septic system is in the river. You see that?
I have no idea when that was done.
Okay, but I'm just saying, but is that grandfathered in?
I have no
See, when you
idea.
look at that sweat house and you see their, and I'm
Oh,
I'm
this
trying
is
to
your, I
comply
have
with
no
all your
idea.
laws.
I don't know when that house was built.
I can answer that question a little bit for you, Bob. That if that lot was created prior to the Rivers Protection Act, it was grandfathered.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's grandfathered.
Right.
But I'm saying, there are issues that I know that as the rules come in, they try to correct what happened in the past.
That is a reality
Okay.
of what we deal with,
And
yes.
when I look at this, if that house was going to be built today, it could never
You're
be
probably
allowed on that
correct.
lot.
You're probably, I don't know for sure, it might not be at that location,
Well,
yeah.
it's right within the,
Yep.
it's right in the river.
Yeah, I mean, and that's true with a
Okay.
lot of,
And I
yeah.
apologize if you think I was trying to put pressure on you. I just wanted to explain what my process was in building 2 house lots.
Right.
Okay.
And we don't have a problem with it, we're just trying to make it so that
I
it
wanted to
meets.
make it work too,
Yeah,
okay?
and we're sensitive to the fact that when you prolong things, you end up incurring additional expenses. What I'm trying to do is get everyone on the same page so you don't have to do that, we don't
I
go back and
appreciate
forth.
that.
That's why I'm saying, I don't wanna tell you, go and change the plans, because I don't know if they need to be changed.
That's why I wanted to come here, because, we got cost involved in changing that, or cost
Right.
involved in construction if it was something that's not necessary.
So, But let me,
And I think that to his thing, on the fee part, is, it's a pretty exorbitant amount of fees just to pay. I don't know what anyone else's opinion is, but that's 2 lots, it's almost $10,000 a lot in fees, and he hasn't got a building permit yet. You know, I mean, you guys write rules as you go and create stuff as you go, but just ask that you be cognizant of that. That all ends up being a burden on anyone's children that wanna try to live in it.
I looked at some rules that
Yeah.
said that most towns, if you're under 4 building lots, they don't have storm water management type of regulations or whatever.
yeah, ours is based
And I
on,
know, I have a building on Ferry Street.
Yeah.
And you know what happened on Ferry Street with the builder who abandoned things and left the rock pile there. I know the cars that overturned in the street on Ferry Street due to 300 patch of ice
Right.
every winter, every time it rained, overturned on that street.
Yeah.
My building's 500 feet away from there. So I'm aware of what can happen if we don't take the proper precautions
Right.
in building,
right,
okay?
so, but, yeah, and again, what I'm trying to do is get to the end here as opposed to go back and forth.
Yeah.
That's, you
Yeah,
know,
no, I just wanted to bring up the fees, I mean, just, you guys set that stuff, you set the table that we have to come to.
right.
Any person in town has to come to that table.
And on-
It's pretty exorbitant.
Well, I can tell you this, unfortunately, it's based on bad experiences. It's
Yeah.
based on the town having to react to things. And that's unfortunate that you don't always have people doing the right things
Yeah.
and creating issues. And so we're always, yeah,
Pulte bailed out and left a big rock pile down there.
yeah, there's a lot of people that got hurt by that. So we
Yeah.
try to avoid those things. I mean, that's, you know, it's a balancing act and nothing's ever perfect, but. So let me open it up to the other commissioners if they have other questions about this site. I mean, we're really heavily onto the stormwater here, so that's, but yeah.
Well, I can say I appreciate the fact that you are making an effort to maintain the integrity of the meadow, of that piece of property that's a lovely piece of property, and to just be cognizant of your neighbors and the land itself. I understand your frustration, well, I can say I appreciate your frustration. And it's, but I think we as a commission want to work with you and together, not to work
Yeah.
against what you're trying to do. But like I say, I do appreciate the fact that you aren't putting 6 houses in that little.
Thank
small-
you.
Yeah.
Well, my neighbors, when the open meeting was for the planning board, they all came and supported the project.
Yeah,
Because
and
we did a preliminary plan so that it cost additional money, but I wanted to make sure my neighbors saw what was happening and not getting upset over something that they thought might happen.
yeah, and I don't think
Okay.
you're hearing a lot of opposition to this particular plan. We're just trying to get the details, and there seems to be some cross-communication going on. And I don't want to waste any more people's time and and try to get it resolved with our peer reviewer
Yeah.
and stuff, so. And then, yeah, other than that, and then go through, I think, I appreciate Leah going through and putting all the comments together, because it's much easier.
Yeah.
Although
Yeah. Leah came out and was very gracious and walked the property back in August.
Yeah.
And it was after a rainstorm, it was almost 3 inches. And I know you didn't see any water. You could tell the other
Yeah.
people on the commission,
Yeah.
what you saw there. There was no water racing down the street or puddling in the
Yeah.
street, which the town engineer, I went to him after his comment of puddling in the street. You drive that street. Have you ever seen puddles in that section of Meadowbrook Road?
I can say no.
And I've visited his office 3 times to ask him, to have him call me. I haven't heard from him.
From my perspective, and based on our bylaw and what we are, is that you have to mimic what's coming off your site. That's why
Yeah.
we have the peer reviewer,
Oh,
and that's why,
I agree,
so.
but I've lived there for 30 years. I've never had any puddling in the street. She drives it every day. There's no puddling because that water runs downhill towards that stream.
Right,
It doesn't even stay in the street.
so. anything else?
I don't have much to add. I certainly appreciate less development in that area, but as we've said, we have a process to follow and we're following.
So-
There's 9 acres remaining of the 12 acres for the horses.
Yeah. So kind of at this point, what I suggest is if you did a continuance, then I'll probably end up, with Leah's help, I'll probably end up talking to Jeff directly, just so that
I
we
just
can.
need some guidance on what,
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying don't touch anything.
yeah.
I don't think at this point, I don't want you revising anything, just because if we're not on the same page with that, there's 2 questions I have, which is the 100 feet, and then the, as far as the pretreatment and how that is on, Jeff looks at it, because I've had personal experience with that, and I didn't care because I had so much, but,
Yeah, well, like I said, I would appreciate any guidance, I guess,
Yeah.
from the Commonwealth, but I couldn't find any. And, so when I read it, it's,
yeah,
I
there's,
follow
if you read the thing about the forebay and pretreatment, it's included in the basin, that's fine, but and it's just, it's not crystal clear.
it's not clear at all.
Yeah, and so,
So when I passed the hurdle, and now I got gigged for it again, I kinda,
yeah, so from my perspective, you have the pretreatment before it.
right,
That's, yeah.
yeah.
The whole thing that it's 70, not 80, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
That to me is something
Yeah, I
that,
mean, so part of it's gonna be a private road, not a public road, so you're not gonna have the level of sanding and salting that you're gonna get on the
yeah,
public
and to
right
me, it's
away.
all about the vegetation, to be quite honest, to get a nice, healthy lawn back there, that meadow back there, that's gonna do more than anything else, that's, So I'll put it back to you, do you wanna, if you want a continuance,
Yeah, we request or grant a continuance.
okay. So then, do I have, and then we'll just do it for 2 weeks?
Yeah, I'm hoping that if you can get in touch with
Yeah.
Jeff shortly, then
Well, that's, yeah, I mean, I think,
don't
yeah.
have a lot of revisions left, so I'd like to try to get this
Right.
wrapped up.
Yeah, and then we can go through an update so that, and then leave it up to you and how you wanna, if there's any updates, how to do it, but, yeah. So, do I have a motion to continue?
I'll move to continue the discussion to October 15th.
I second that.
All those in favor? Good luck, you're near the end,
Thank you.
you're near the end,
Okay?
yeah.
Sorry to feel so frustrated, but,
And I do it, I just, and I get it that you're doing this a certain way, and I appreciate that, but when people start coming in and saying, geez, I could do it this way or that way.
no, I'm
it's,
not trying to say that. I said I have to make it economically feasible at some point, and at that point, if it doesn't become that way,
Right,
then as a business decision, you have to bail out. I'm
Yep.
not putting any pressure on you, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, I gotta bail out,
yeah, and then from,
okay?
yeah, from our perspective, we're just trying to do what,
Right, and we're trying to do that.
yep, so, I think we're all on the same page. There's some things that we need to work out, though, that's all. All right, thank you very
Okay,
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so, based on that, we're done. Do I have a motion to close?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, great. Have a good one.